Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the pool party. I hope you can swim because we're definitely diving into the deep end with a huge splash of truth, facts, evidence, information, and proof. Swim. Say what you mean. It's talk about talking. How we listen, how we hear, how we speak, how we hear what we're listening to when we speak, how a listener hears what we're saying, if what we're saying, what they're actually hearing and or understanding. Is it clear? Swim. Say what you mean. Well, that's just the beginning of understanding, because after we get that understanding, how do we accept it? How we respond if it's not what we expect is paramount. Are you okay with the truth? Are you man, woman, human, or spiritual enough to accept the truth? Let's find out. Welcome to The Swimming Pool with your host, Travis Bridges.
Yeah, buddy. That would be me. I am Travis Bridges, and welcome to The Swimming Pool. It's talk about talking. The swimming pool is SWYM. It's the acronym for say what you mean. You should say what you mean, and you should mean what you say. Why? Because it matters. There's a saying that goes like this: your word is your bond. And many people say that. I remember it used to be cool back in the day, back in my time, we used to say, word is bond. Yo, man, your word is bond. And then one of my favorite movies, Al Pacino says, I ain't got nothing but my word and my scrotums. He used a different word. I'm just trying to be family here. And then he says, I don't break them for nobody. And it's popular to be a man of your word because everybody will honor your word. There used to be a time back when you used to do a deal and there were really no contracts, there were no lawyers, or there were no courts and stuff like that. You used to be able to make a deal with somebody and your word would be your word and it would mean something. And you used to be able to put your hand forth like this and shake with somebody. And when you shake with that person, it would actually mean something. It would mean that, you're in that deal, and that would be the end of that. So, saying what you mean and meaning what you say has merit, but we get away from it so easily, and I just don't understand it. The older I get, I guess wisdom is starting to kick in. Oh, I'm not perfect, but I find a way to, I guess, be as close to the best that I can be, whatever that means. But I try to make sure I do what I say, and I say what I do. It's not easy sometimes. Sometimes time can get away from us. I remember as a youngster, I used to think that I forgot was a good reason or a good excuse to be let off the hook. But I'll never forget the incident, one of my days in radio. I actually forgot to be somewhere that I was supposed to be. And I thought, okay, because it was normal for people to forget that it would be okay. Well, my boss lit into me really good, and I almost lost that job, and he was not nice to me for that. And by the time he got finished with me, I thought, as common as it is for a normal person to forget, that you have to be a little more accountable and a whole lot more responsible if you're in a position of accountability where people are depending on you and are expecting for you to come through. When someone leaves something in your hand, they expect you to do it. And if you agree to do it, you should carry it out and not make excuses just because the excuse sounds good to you. Another one of my favorite actors says something like this: excuses sound best to those who are making them. But if you're on the other end of an excuse, things happen. But if you're the one holding the bag, it's not cool at all. So I'm just going to put a little sauce on that. Anyway, here's hoping you're having a wonderful evening. Want to say hello to Christine, and that looks like that's all I got. Christine, I tell you, one of these days I'm going to be very rich, and I'm going to remember those people who were there for me and hung out. And you are what would be considered loyal, and I just want you to know I appreciate it. So special thank you to Christine S. in the house. Well, guess what I've got? I've got subjects and I've got topics, and I don't necessarily have a live guest tonight. However, I do have a canned guest that I'm going to bring on a little later on. So guess what you got? You got me for at least the next 25 minutes just talking. That's not going to be easy to do because usually I have a guest and I'll have a guest on and, we'll talk, especially if I have two guests, we can talk and we'll talk up to the other guest and, I'll have a live stream. I started this at the peak of COVID when work stopped for me and a lot of other musicians and artists and people who could not get out and serve the public like we normally do. We were forced to get behind the camera of a computer and make the best out of what it is that we do. Some people were singing, people were playing instruments, and I think there's a social media platform called TikTok. It is on fire right now. And believe it or not, I just got a TikTok account like a week ago. My son and my daughter-in-law were here, and they were telling me about it. Actually, my goddaughter. It wasn't my son and my daughter-in-law. It was my goddaughters. They were here over the holidays, and they were telling me about, TikTok. Why don't you do TikTok? And I was like, okay. I kind of felt dated because as old as I am, I try to stay up on most of the technology, especially the stuff that I use and that I do regularly. But I figured I would try it out. Opal T, hey, how you doing? Thank you so much for hanging out. I have two massive topics that are going to go with two other massive topics. And if your math is good, 2 and 2 equals 4. So I have two topics that I'm going to talk about. The last two are going to be the last half of my live stream. And I do have a guest, and it's going to be interesting. And I can't wait to share it with you. But I'm going to tell you what the 4 topics are before I hold on a second. Let's see. Let me get me some grooves going here. I have 4 topics, and I'm going to tell you what they are. The first one is, what's love got to do with it? And the second one is caring for something or someone. And the other two, they kind of go together, is cussing. Some people like to say curse. I did this on my live stream a few months ago, and I wanted to come back to it because I hear so much of it, and I wanted to talk about it. Cussing and fornication. Oh my God, why would this guy go there? Why? Because when you look around, I guess it's common, in certain religions, it is just forbidden, and definitely is not something that we're taught, at least from my background. It's just not something you're supposed to do. So I want to talk about it since people are hiding out with it. So I'm going to say it backwards now so it would make sense. Cussing and fornication, and what's love got to do with it? If you care about something or someone, they kind of go together, but they don't. Love kind of sort of goes with intimacy in its own way, and fornication is not necessarily intimacy. It is an act, so to speak, and we're going to talk about it a little later on. Okay, but before we get into it with my guest, I've got a few more minutes, and I'm a little, I don't want to say I'm nervous, but it is a touchy subject. Won't you agree? Yes, it is. Who talks about fornication with a straight face and cussing? I'll never forget. One of my guests said that cussing just kind of make things sound good. And I'm going to talk with my guest later on, and we're going to talk about, is it right or is it wrong? Is it good or is it bad? Is it appropriate or inappropriate? How and when and with who? And why would cussing ever be good? And how in the name of God, I'm sorry, God, I don't want to put you in this. Is how in the name of anything or anyone can you look at something like fornication? The word alone just sounds terrible. I mean, you just don't hear that word. You don't walk down the grocery store aisle and hear somebody going, fornication, fornication. It's just one of those words that's kind of, talked about silently and quietly, but we're going to talk about it tonight. So let's get into the first subject, which is, what's love got to do with it? Tina Turner made that very popular in the 80s. I think it was 83 or 84. If you have Google real quick, look it up for me. I think it was 1984. I saw the movie. I saw it in the theater. And since it was popular back then, I'll bet I watched that movie at least 50 times. And every time I watch it, I get something out of it. Ike Turner was something else, wasn't he? That band was tight, though. And Tina Turner, of course, she still is something and still going on and doing her thing from what I understand. With that being said, what does love have to do with it? It's such a powerful word, isn't it? Say it, love. I'm going to say it for you, love. Now say, I love you. And now when you say it the next time, think of somebody that you love. And if a smile comes to your face, smile and say it, love. And then think of the person that you love and say, I love you. Let's see how that goes. Go ahead. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to do it. Okay. Now, considering that at the end of my live stream, I always say, find somebody that you need to say I love you to, and then don't just say it. Find a way to show it. Well, I say that because I really do mean it. Based on what I know love to be, it's a good thing to not just say it, but to show it. Opal T says 1983. I promise you, 93. It was not 93. You're 10 years behind. It's 83. And I'm positive that you hit the wrong stroke on your keyboard. So it was 83. Thank you for that. But back to my point. When you talk about love, Patti LaBelle say, you talk about me. It's a song that I play on my saxophone, and I really like it. It has a real cool groove to it. But let me see if I can get my train of thought back. Love is a really big word. But many people will say, I love you, and their actions may not line up with that, which is why I'm bringing attention to the word tonight in particular, because I want to talk about how it is a little bit on the controversial side when it comes to, man, really? Let me tell you what I did. I want to tell y'all I'm having technical issues right now. This is crazy. I had my system set up here today, and then my cousin brought by my old mixer, and I was like, I want to see if it's working. This is crazy. I should have left well enough alone. Y'all just bear with me a minute. Gosh. And it's just acting real stank too. It's like, how is it even possible to do this? Jesus. Man, you see me getting like mad on the air at myself. If it wasn't a shame, I'd stop everything and just change the mixer out. Because I had no business doing this. Okay, maybe if I just don't touch it, it'll be okay. Anyway, back to my point. Thank you for your patience. Someone will say I love you and then do something, that contradicts that. If you love somebody, you're not supposed to hurt them. You're not supposed to lie to them. You're not supposed to betray them. You're supposed to actually really say what you mean and mean what you say. Love has a connotation to it that comes along with something. If you say you love something, you love someone, you don't treat it like you don't love them. But it happens all the time. People say it. And, man, come on. Jesus. I will never do this again. Come on. But the point I want to make the point pretty fast. I'm not going to stop telling people to say I love you because, that has value. What I am going to do is, differentiate, of what it means. And a friend of mine told me this a long time ago, and I didn't give it much thought, and I just started thinking about it today, and I thought I would share it. When you say I love you, and then you find yourself not showing love, and we all do it. Don't lie and say you haven't said you love something or someone and then didn't treat it well. But when you care for someone, and love should involve caring for someone, but it doesn't always involve caring. But when you say I love you to someone, add and I care for you too, and see if that changes anything. Because I love chocolate chip cookies, but I don't care for chocolate chip cookies. Is there a difference or no? I think there is. So this may mean nothing to someone or anyone, but it's just something to think about. When you say I love you, remember that you're also insinuating that you care for them. And if you don't have that in the back of your mind as you show your love for someone, it's easy to forget. And you may be, late, or you may slip and do or say something that doesn't necessarily involve love. If you love someone, there's no reason why your actions or your words should hurt them in any kind of way, or that they should feel betrayed by your actions, especially if it's true or legitimate. So loving someone is good. Say it, continue to say it, but show it through how you care. Okay? I hope I'm making sense. I really do. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, if I'm making any sense, just throw up a high five or a thumbs up, wherever you are, because I know I'm saying something to somebody. And I have a few more minutes before I bring my guest on to talk about Cussin and fornication. So to recap, we're talking about love. What's love got to do with it? Maybe nothing if you don't show it. And if you care for someone, it adds just a little extra. You know how we get our booster shots? Well, saying you care for someone and actually showing it adds a little extra to just saying you love someone or something. So if you love chocolate chip cookies like I do, care for the chocolate chip cookies by getting some milk to go with them one day, or some ice cream. I know I'm being a little silly because I guess sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying, but you must admit that I am, bringing up something that's deep, and maybe I'm rattling a little bit, but let's just think about it for a minute. Loving someone and then not showing it is not necessarily love. You got to show it in a caring way. And if I could be religious for just 10 seconds, I'll just say, we say Jesus is love, or what is God? God is love. You can hear people saying that in all across the religious board. And if you look at how, our Heavenly Father treats us, there's no betrayal. There's love and there's care, and even in concern. So we're taught, and if we believe that in our heart, then of course we can feel that and we can see, and let that be an example, of how, the Bible in particular teaches how we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And if we're married or in a serious and committed relationship, you love your spouse or your significant other, as Christ loved, the church. And that's deep. You care for someone, you're there for them. If you have a spouse and, you say you love them, that kind of sort of translates in giving them what they need even before they have to ask for it. I heard it put like that before. kind of intercepting their needs if you can. So with that being said, if you love someone, show it by caring for them. And if you need to look up the word or the definition of care, it means to handle in a special way, more like fragile, like you would handle yourself. Would you want somebody to lie to you or cheat on you or to be late or to betray you in any kind of way? Of course not. So then let's try not to do it to other people, especially those that we say we love. Okay. Thank you so much, Opal, Christine, and the 5 other people that are hanging out with me, and the rest of you that will be looking at this later on. I don't have my 1,000 subscribers yet, but I do have over 500, and I'm not going to quit. I keep saying all the time, I've got a lot of plans for continuing this, and I don't feel any urge to stop, because I definitely have a vision and a goal, and I'm still kind of getting used to everything. I'm still in kind of transition. If you notice, this is not the Hollywood home studio. This is my makeshift studio, and there's going to come a time where it's going to be, be a little more stable, and I'm just letting you know that, because I'm here. I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to be right back, and when I come back, I'm going to have that caller on, and maybe I'll have enough time at the end of the caller to make some comments or even take some comments. So with that being said, do me a favor, hold the spot you got. I'll be right back.
The Swimming Pool with Travis Bridges is a talk segment about talking. Talk about talking? Yes, talk about talking. It's designed to bring awareness to how we listen, how we hear, and what we do with the information we receive during communication. The mind is automatically programmed to protect the body and soul. It displays that through each and every encounter we experience. If any part of the body is threatened, the mind will automatically issue the flight command. The flight command to retreat to safety. Well, that same command is also deployed when our ego is threatened. The ego, yes, the ego. It's so natural and common, it happens oftentimes without us even knowing. Engaging in conversation and staying focused on what is present is considered mental fitness. It strengthens our emotions and helps us to gain control of our circumstances instead of having our circumstances overtake our thinking and our very existence. It's a difficult task to achieve because our feelings, beliefs, and desires are so strong that it causes us to totally disregard even the most common or basic reasoning. This live stream is only here to bring awareness to that subconscious process. Nothing or no one is actually wrong. However, the idea of being open to anything outside of what we've already concluded is golden, especially if the new information is transparent. The SWYM developers would like to say thanks for supporting, watching, listening, and sharing this information. Now, back to the swimming pool. Let's dive in and swim.
I'm just going to be natural. I don't want to.
Okay, good. Well, that's why I could hear between the two of us. One of us wasn't being natural. Maybe it was me. But I'm going to go in a whole different direction. Just before this, for our audience, we were talking about the difference of being anxious and then being excited. I asked my guest, to describe anxious, and he explained that it was being in a hurry. And then we were talking about, the Bible talking about being anxious for nothing. And then we got into a conversation where it's like, if we can't be excited, how do you differentiate? And we're going to talk about that at another time. But what I'm going to do right now is totally change everything up. And this is going to probably take you by surprise. But I want to talk about two things, and we're going to get right into it. And I'm on time right now. I'm going to measure us. We're going to go no more than 30 minutes. And if I have to edit, then I will. But I'm starting our clock right now. The two subjects are Cussin and fornication. Cussin and fornication. Is it right or wrong to cuss 4-letter words, and tell me why?
Well, because words are power. Okay, words paint pictures, paint images, and for people that aren't aware of that, they can create the wrong image, the wrong picture, the wrong thought. Everything begins with a thought. You know what I'm saying? And cursing just shows that a person is frustrated.
Okay.
Person is frustrated.
Okay, I get that.
Okay. And upset and not able to think clearly.
Okay, I get that. So my question now is, you just said words have meaning. I do understand that. But, cussing within itself is a way of expression. So do you think cussing is wrong, yes or no?
Of course I do.
So that's a yes?
Because you can communicate.
Okay, hold on a second. I need you to slow down. I want to take all of this good time, and I want to get inside your head as well as your heart through what you're going to say out of your mouth. So is cussing right, or is it right or wrong? Which is it?
It's wrong.
Is it good or bad?
It's bad.
Okay, tell me why it's bad.
Because the words aren't life, they're filled with death. If you know anything about words, words are containers. They carry life or they carry death.
Okay, is it more important? Okay, hold on. Is it more important what someone says or how a person interprets it? Because if I say a word and it's deemed a cuss word to someone and maybe not to someone else, or if I just say a word, the way the words, what you give to the word, the meaning you give to the word is more powerful than even what the dictionary gives to the word. So you're saying it's wrong. What if I don't see it as wrong? What if it doesn't bother me? What if I use a 4-letter word that we know is a cuss word and it doesn't bother the person that's talking to? How is it then bad if two people are not offended by it?
It comes down to agreement, and it all depends on who you're talking to. All right? There's always going to be someone that's going to say it's right. There's going to be someone that's going to say it's wrong. You follow me? Mm-hmm. You always have to go back to the origin of the word. I can communicate something, but it may not come across to you the way that it should because you have a different understanding of what I've just said. Communication, one of the biggest challenges among people, because the person that's communicating understands what they're saying, but the person that they're communicating to may not understand. So are they really communicating? You follow me?
Okay, so
are they really communicating? If you don't define the words before you communicate, what you're saying may not be understood by the person that you're communicating.
Okay, we're talking about two adults with at least a junior high school education. If they're having a conversation and one person just decides to use a 4-letter word that we know is considered cussing in our society, you're saying that it's wrong to do that, correct?
Right.
Okay.
But it all depends on the environment you raise up. Yes, it is wrong because we've been trained to talk a certain way. All right? We've been trained to talk a certain way. When we communicate, I can't just come up to a young lady and say, blankly, blank, 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 and she'd be okay with that. I come up to another young lady who's in a different environment, and she'd be okay with that because that's what she hears constantly all the time. Mm-hmm. That's how she's referred to all the time. You follow what I'm saying?
Okay, what I'm trying to get to now is you said it's wrong or right. And before I drag it out anymore, I'm going to give my take on whether it's wrong or right. I don't think it's wrong or right. I think it just is what it is. Because I think in the freedom of expression and the ability to express something, a cuss word we're taught is not right because it's a cuss word. But in the for the sake of expressing, there's certain things that you can say that if you use a certain word will give more impact to it. So I think there's an appropriate place to use a 4-letter word, or what we call a cuss word, and there's an environment to use it that doesn't make it wrong or right, but makes it more appropriate. So as opposed to just going out and saying it's wrong or it's right, I'm going to say it's inappropriate to use a 4-letter word in a certain place. I would not go into a professional environment or definitely a church and use a 4-letter word. But if another person, in a skit or in a movie or even on the street, if they're having a conversation or making even a joke. Some jokes are very funny if you use cuss words, and they will not be as funny or have the same impact if you don't use that word. So I'm just going to go on to say that I'm not going to look at it wrong or right, and I think everything should be done in decent and in order. But you have some people who are radicals that'll say it's just flat out wrong all the way around, and I'm not going to say wrong or right to that in particular. I want to know your opinion about, my perspective, and me saying I don't think it's wrong if it's used in an appropriate way. If you say it's wrong and I'm going to say no, it's not wrong, what is your take about my opinion?
Okay. That word, whatever cuss words, if it should be able to, you should be able to use it anywhere. If it's right, you should be able to use it in church. You should be able to use it anywhere. In front of your mom, your dad, your best friend, a business environment, wherever.
Okay, when you say, hold on, I want to stop you for a second. If you say if it's right, okay, I already understand that you look at cursing or profanity as right or wrong. I'm totally getting away from right or wrong. So I already know your perspective, and I get it, and thank you for your input. I want you now to tell me that, okay, instead of saying it's right or wrong, I think there's a place and time to do anything. Right or wrong, it's probably more inappropriate to say something like a 4-letter or curse word or use profanity in a church pulpit or in a professional environment. Probably not. So I guess inappropriate would be with right. But when I hear you say it's wrong, that means you should not do it under no circumstances. And I'm going to not necessarily disagree, but just stay away from the right or wrong and go with appropriate and inappropriate for the sake of saying that everything could or should be done indecently and in order. So I want to know what you think about my perspective in saying that, okay, it's not right or wrong. If someone is using profanity and they're using it in a place that I guess is not or more conducive to profanity as opposed to not, that it's not necessarily wrong. So I want to be clear with my stance. I'm not going to say it's wrong or right. I'm definitely not going to say it's wrong. I want to know your perspective of my perception of profanity in that it's not wrong.
Here is my perspective. We all have a free will. We all have a free will, and I can never go against another person's free will. What I may see or feel is wrong or inappropriate, another individual may feel that it is appropriate. Okay? And I respect that. But as for me, I wouldn't communicate that way. I came up in an environment like that, and where people are free to communicate and talk and so forth, what have you, hear it all the time. But I myself would not communicate like that. And I'm not going to judge another person, tell them what they can and what they can't do, because I understand everybody has different environments they come up in. So there are some words that are appropriate, there are some words that are inappropriate. But when it comes to another individual, because they have a free will, I have to respect that. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it wrong.
Quick question. What is your primary... question. What is your primary reason for not using profanity? One sentence. Your primary reason for not using profanity.
My primary reason for not using profanity is because I've been taught better that words are powerful, death and life, in the power of my tongue, and I don't want to communicate to another person that way because I wouldn't want to offend another individual.
Okay.
Using words like that because they look at me differently.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They look at me differently.
Okay.
If I use those kind of words towards my wife, she would look at me differently. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
or my daughter, or my sons, or my.
Okay, so the ultimate goal for doing the right thing and not doing the wrong thing is for the reward that we get. So clearly, based on what you just said, you would not do that because you don't want the reward of that, which means your wife or someone would look at you considered in a negative way. And if we are more concerned about what other people think, then of course we definitely want to do or not do what someone will think that would may not make us look like in a certain way. But ultimately, we all want to go into, this beautiful place that we call heaven. Do you believe in heaven or hell? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you believe that something that's wrong that you said, profanity was wrong? Do you think using profanity will keep you out of heaven? Yes or no?
No.
No, you don't.
No, it will not.
Okay.
No, it will not. It will just destroy your witness. It will destroy your witness. That's all.
What do you mean? What do you mean by destroy your witness?
Is your witness because of the way people view, okay, you're speaking and you're talking about heaven. I have to believe that you're talking about a believer, someone that believes in God, with accepted Jesus Christ, so forth, what have you. So other people view Christians as, they always say Christians don't do this, they don't do that.
Okay, I get your point. I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but when you said it'll destroy your witness, it'll just make you look bad in front of people who see it as looking bad. But you think it's wrong, you don't do it. I'm not sure I understand your perspective of, my perception of, I don't think it's wrong or right. I think everything should be done in decent and order. And if a person cuss in a certain place at a certain time, I'm not going to say it's wrong. And if you don't think it'll keep a person out of heaven, then that's what I want to know. You don't think a person will not be kept out of heaven because they use cuss words, correct?
No.
Okay,
no, of course not.
Okay, good. I think I got my point, so I appreciate you. And for the sake of time, I want to move on to the other subject. It's fornication, and I guess we're going to have the same topic. Fornication to you means what?
It means you being immoral or intimate with someone outside of.
You can say sex on this live stream. It's okay.
Sex, yeah. You can have the sex, outside of marriage.
Okay, that's fornication. So is fornication to you right or wrong?
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Because it's not your body that you're only getting involved. Right, it's wrong.
Okay, I know we're going to get to the why. I just want to hear if you can explain. So you feel your short answer is you feel that fornication is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to be careful with my response because I want to try to give my take. And, I've been taught that it's wrong and it's not something that I'm trying to practice myself. But in my heart, and if I can be honest with you, and even on my live stream, I can't say that I'm going to call it wrong because if the word is right, and it says everything should be done in decent and order. I think, if a person is in a committed relationship with a person and they do it in decent and order, maybe it's not wrong. It may be considered inappropriate. So let me ask you this question, for the sake of time. Do you think fornicating, maybe if two people are married and they're committed, not married, but if they're not married legally from a legal perspective, but if they have committed their souls to each other, by sense of saying, okay, I'm going to be exclusive with you and you're going to be exclusive with me, and then they engage in sexual activity, is that right or wrong? One answer.
It was wrong.
Okay, next question. Do you think committing fornication under those grounds, if two consenting adults, decide that they're going to be committed to each other and only to each other, and they do that between themselves, if they say, okay, this is between you, me, and God, we're not going to see anyone else, we're going to be together without being with anyone else exclusively, and they commit to each other, do you think that will keep them out of heaven? Yes or no?
Will that keep them out of heaven?
Yes or no?
If they're believers fornicating?
I'm saying two people, generally
Fornication
speaking.
won't
Listen
keep
to
you
my
married.
question. Hold on. This is very important that we stay on focus. Two people that decide, two consenting, mature adults decide that they're going to be exclusive with each other. And they say, okay, God, we're going to pray, that you bless us, as individuals, and that we're going to commit to each other, and we love each other. And we thank you in advance for being, in the midst of our commitment, and keeping us focused particularly on each other. They have that prayer amongst themselves, and it's between God. Of course, they don't have a marriage in a chapel or with a church with a pastor, and they don't have papers downtown, with the government. But that's two consenting adults decide that they're going to do that amongst themselves. You said you feel that's wrong, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, now my next question is, you think two adults who do that will keep them out of heaven, yes or no?
It most certainly would.
Okay, explain to me.
It's a sin.
What is this? What makes it a sin? And before you answer that, I'm not taking any sides. I'm just asking questions that anyone would have in the back of their mind.
I know.
So, and just for the record, no, I don't practice and promote fornication in any kind of way. I'm just trying to get a clearance from a person who subscribes to a certain, certain thing. You have a certain view on fornication. Somebody else may or may not. So just tell me, why is it wrong, and why would it keep them out of heaven?
Yeah. Well, according to the instruction manual, 1 Corinthians 6:18, it says, fornication, every sin that a man does is without the body. But he that committed fornication sinneth against his own body. This body that we've been given temporarily here on earth has been given to us by God Almighty. And he paid for it with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. He says, we're to glorify him. Our bodies are not our own. We've been bought with a price. Fornication doesn't glorify him. It's sinning against his body. Even though people may be aware of it or not, it's a sin against his body. He gave us these bodies. We're not just the result, a product of our mother and father's passion, and that's what a lot of people think. But he said, that's why he came up with marriage. Marriage is honorable, the bed undefiled. Marriage is honorable, the bed is undefiled. It wasn't man's institution, it was God's.
Quick question on marriage, since you're on marriage. Quick question on marriage. What is the primary substance of marriage? If you can give me, what is the primary substance of marriage?
The a husband and wife to come together and have children. God wanted to have children. So he enabled a man and woman to come together in a relationship because he wanted to have a relationship with us. And then we're to train our children up the same way.
So I'm trying to understand the primary definition.
Because the woman comes from man. The primary definition of what? Marriage?
Well, I went from substance to definition. What makes a marriage a marriage? The primary thing that makes a marriage a marriage.
When a man and a woman come together with witnesses.
That's a wedding.
Right? I think they go to church. That's a wedding. But that's a man and woman come together with witnesses. These two, this man, this woman, have chosen each other to come together, be joined together as one, to become one flesh. And it's upheld. That's why they have a marriage license.
Right.
It's upheld, and they have their little rings as a covenant.
Right. I get that.
We're showing, signifying that I'm in covenant with someone else.
Okay, so my question, the main thing that constitutes a marriage is the witnesses. What is the main thing that constitutes the marriage? What makes the marriage? The witnesses or the vows
the man and
or
woman
the license? What is the main thing that makes a marriage a marriage?
A man and woman choosing to be faithful and committed to each other. I see what you're getting at, but
I'm not getting at anything. I'm just asking questions. I do have a point.
No. I'm just saying. as a man and woman come together, being married with witnesses that can acknowledge this man, this woman came together. They're one.
So you're saying, okay, so hold on a second. So you're saying it has to be a ceremony. Like right now, if two people, as I mentioned before, I gave you the example of two consenting adults. Hold on, let me finish. Slow down. Let me finish. Two consenting adults decide amongst the two of them, and they say a prayer, and they mean it from their heart. And they say, hey, you know, we're going to commit exclusively to each other, and we want to be together. And maybe they can say it, you know, in front of their parents. You know, maybe it can be a conversation that two people have. If a man comes, you know, to a father of a woman that he likes, and he says, "Sir, you know, we have decided that we want to be together, and we're going to be exclusive. I'm going to be exclusive to her. She agrees to be exclusive to me, and we want you two to know that. That's what we're going to do. We have prayed about it, and that's what we're going to do." We're probably not going to have a ceremony, invite everybody, and we're probably not going to document it downtown. But this is what we've decided to do. And let's just say the parents are there, and they already went to the man's parents. They already know, and they're in the presence now of the woman's parents, and they just say, okay, we already let them know, but this is what we're going to do. And after we let you guys know, we're going to move in together, and we're going to live a life, and we're going to start a family. Is that the substance of marriage? Yes or no?
Now, you said they went down where? They went downtown?
No, they didn't go anywhere.
They
decided amongst themselves first that
right.
So
yeah, that's not a marriage.
Okay, I'm asking you if it's the substance of marriage. Is it the main thing that a marriage consists of?
No.
Okay, now I'm back to my original question. What is the primary substance of a marriage? What makes it, okay, because two people can be married without a church wedding. Two people can
witnessing it. Right. Two people can come together and witness. That's why you have laws of the land. The laws of the land says in order for two people to be considered married, husband and wife, they come together in matrimony before a witness. Didn't say you have to hold a church, you have justice of the peace. A witness, as I say.
Get it. Hold on, we can't use names. I'm going to have to edit that. So let me look at where I am. I've got to edit names.
Okay.
We don't say names at all here.
Gotcha.
So let's just say, okay, so I think I get your point, and thank you for clarifying that. And not that I didn't know this, I just wanted to talk it out. So I guess based on your answer right now, the substance of marriage is doing it in public with witnesses for people to see. Is that the substance of marriage? The primary substance.
Well, that would be considered. You know what I'm saying?
That would be the primary substance of marriage. Because that's the specific and direct
to be considered a marriage, right? To be considered married. Now, marriage is going to take more than that. But to be considered married, for men and women to be considered married.
Okay, I get it. So it's the ceremonial, the public ceremonial part of it. So I know it's okay. So if we had to talk about their commitment within themselves and then taking it public, it's what makes it then a marriage. The primary, the foundation, that is the foundation. So I know there's other things involved. So I don't want to get confused. I know, you make it nice with a church and a pastor and all the rings and all that stuff. I understand that. I totally get that. I'm just trying to get to the bare bones, the basics of what, makes a marriage, I guess a marriage, based on what we know it. And the primary thing is doing it publicly with witnesses. Is that what you're saying the primary thing is, yes or no?
That would be considered marriage. Right, that's primary. That's first and foremost.
Okay.
There's other things that go along with that, but that's first and foremost to be considered as a marriage, yes, sir.
Okay, I get it. No, I appreciate that because that does change the total dynamics of,
the direction that I was going in the beginning. Because if two people just say it, I guess that would be considered, fornication if two people just decide that on their own. Even if they didn't do it in a church, even if they didn't go to the justice of the peace and have a license, if two people decide that they're going to have witnesses, and then they make it, open to the public and they exchange those vows, would that be considered the basics of the law that would make it a marriage if they openly say that they're going to commit to each other? That would be the basic structure of a marriage. I know it wouldn't be all the parts, and it probably wouldn't be legal in terms of what we know. But the primary essence, which was my original question, and I appreciate you taking the time to go through this with me, is that you take this person to be your spouse, wife in particular, openly and public, at least amongst the community that know you, your immediate family, and some witnesses. You said witnesses, and that's the key word. So now I think I have the answer to my question. I just want you to agree with me before we move on. The primary essence of marriage is two people coming together and doing it in the presence of witnesses, correct?
A licensed witness, right. Licensed witnesses that can.
Well, licensed witnesses makes it legal, and I'm saying, okay, and I'm not taking that away from. I'm looking at the primary essence.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So the primary essence is, bottom line, what makes it a marriage is doing it in public, and so that witnesses can see that, okay, these people agree that they're going to commit to each other. That's what makes them married. Whether they have the papers or not, of course, that makes it legal, and all that, and it makes it, of course, you can get all the benefits of according to the law of the land. But the primary essence and substance of a marriage is that two people come together and make that decree amongst themselves with witnesses, and then they start living that lifestyle. Okay, I get it. Can we at least agree that that is the primary essence of marriage?
That is the primary essence of marriage.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. Thank you for going through that with me. I know I'm special, and I like to take it the long route, and I guess we could have found a shorter way to get there, but I appreciate that, and it makes a whole lot of sense, and I think that's very important. Doing that publicly, then, I can see how from a religious and or a biblical or even spiritual perspective, how that would coincide with what God expects outside of fornication. So thank you so much. If I was in front of you, I'd give you a high five. And although you helped me with it, I think we both came to the understanding of the difference between two people. Going down and getting the certificate, yeah, that makes it nice and pretty. It puts a nice bow on the outside. It makes society happy. But if a man and a woman really wanted to live the life and be honorable to God, and they did that publicly, amongst their community, their peers, their family, and they committed to each other openly like that, that's cool. And I guess the bells and whistles is getting down on one knee at the mall and then going and getting 2 rings and having a ceremony and then filing it downtown. That puts all the bows and the wrapping paper and, shine it off and make it real nice. And you can definitely get, benefits according to the laws of the land. That's cool. But again, thanks again. I'm glad I got this. I got something out of this, and I'm going to close with that. So as we wrap it up, Cussin and fornication. Wait, you said fornication will keep you out of heaven, but Cussin may not. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up. So I want to know, fornication will keep you out of heaven, yes or no? Come
yes,
on.
It will.
It will. And will Cussin keep you out of heaven, yes or no?
No, Cussin won't.
Okay. All right. Listen, man, this has been fun. This has been great. I think it's been short enough to where it wasn't too much. I only hope that you'll come back because I like subjects and topics that, require a person to think. And I like people who have a rock solid stance on what they believe and then breaking it down. I tried my best to, I guess, not so much create controversy, but I wanted to see exactly where you stood based on what you were saying. And I appreciate you being patient with me. I know it's not easy, to talk to me, but I got a lot of information out of what you said. And I think you were rock solid in standing on what you believe. and I can't thank you enough. And again, if you promise to come back with me and do it again, I'll let you go right now. So can I get a promise you'll come back?
You got a promise, sir. You just let me know. You got a promise.
Okay, you got it, man. I love you. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic day, and I'll holla.
All right, sir.
10-4.
Bye-bye. Thing. I'm just going to be natural. I don't want to.
Okay, good. Well, that's why I could hear between the two of us. One of us wasn't being natural. Maybe it was me. But I'm going to go in a whole different direction. Just before this, for our audience, we were talking about the difference of being anxious and then being excited.